right now. And, okay. Well, I should have put abstract in there. God darn it. Okay, I've said it here at the beginning, so hopefully I'll remember to add that in there. I don't know if it will matter or not, but it is abstract. And, okay, so I'm not even going to draw a circle on this. I am going to draw another circle, but this other part, okay, there's another part that's sort of circle-ish that I'm not going to draw a circle. So I'm just going to start off kind of like, we're just doing different sizes. Different sizes of these little lines. Some are longer than others. So it's that middle part of the eye. We're going to do this little thing here, which is a reflection. Okay, some of these are shorter, and I'm going to do this in the eye. It's just kind of like little dots. I'm just kind of scribble dotting in here like this to darken that part of the eye a bit. And it gives it sort of a rounded look too. I'm going to actually make this part around here, up here, a little bit darker. I think what I'm going to do is like this, and make it a little bit darker. Just kind of like that. There, that looks pretty good like that. And we'll make some of them a little bit longer. Okay, so now we're gonna start right about here and go up here like this, and then down like that. And then I'm gonna take this little part right about here and then go up and then around and down like that. So now we're gonna do some curving, just a little bit of curving like this. I'm going to darken this up a little bit, just with some applying pressure to my pen like that. So some of it in between here is a little bit lighter. All the lines don't have to touch. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect at all. So that's part of the abstract nature of the drawing. Hello. Good morning. Okay, let's see who we've got in here today. I'm going over here to my page here, my landing page. Hello, Katie Bison. Hello. Do you like drawing? We're working on an eyeball today. So if you have anything you'd like to share, Katie Bison 1994. Yes, okay, you do like drawing. So I'm working on an abstract eye. Now I'm someone who loves to have things coming out of the eye because I tie it in with nature. And so I have this saying of the eyes are the windows to the soul. That's just something, when I was doing something that I was proud of myself for doing at one time when I started my first YouTube channel. I really liked that saying, the eyes are the window to the soul. And when you're doing something that you feel like is kind of different from what's been done in the past, or you're just doing something, even though it's been done before by someone else, you just kind of feel good about yourself for being able to do something like that, no matter what it is. And so this is something that can be done pretty quickly like this. And so right now what I'm working on is we're going to be having just kind of some little, this isn't going to be mushrooms, this is sticks. So we're going to have sticks and twigs coming out of the eye right now. Because I have this belief that we're part of the earth. And I just have this strong belief that we're part of the earth. And so this is kind of my way of connecting through an abstract drawing, being part of the earth. And, you know, where we come from and where we go to, and, you know, there's something that's kind of bigger than ourselves. This is kind of like, I have fun doing this in abstract art ways. So I'm just making some little lines here to show some little curves in here like this. Like that. Okay. There is some little, I do have some little birds in here too, which is kind of cool. Let's see if we can get a little bird in here. Okay, how am I going to get a little bird in here? I want to get one of you little birds in here. Okay, we've got a good start here. It almost kind of looks like one of those office supply things. I don't know if you guys remember the picture corner things that hold pictures in place. I know that's how I did pictures at one time. I had a picture book, and the only thing that I had to hold it in place was little corner glue sticks of some sort. And now I know over time they unstuck and they no longer worked because the glue came loose. It was just kind of funny. Just kind of a funny memory to think about that. And then I kind of had forgotten, my grandma, she actually liked to put names on the front of pictures. My dad said my grandma's philosophy was names belong on the front of pictures where you can easily read them. So she got tired of writing them on the back of pictures. So when grandma started doing her ancestry stuff, there was a whole bunch of pictures. The names were on the back of the pictures, and my grandma, bless her heart, of the silent generation, she decided that she thought names should be on the front of pictures, and she literally started writing on the front of pictures. She would get like a little white tape, and then like at the feet, at the base of the picture, she would write out in really, really tiny print. I don't know how she wrote that tiny, but she did. I guess she did have a magnifying glass because my grandpa was a rock hound, and so they were always looking through one of those things that you put on your head, and because she did jewelry, she did gold wrapping jewelry and things like that, you know. So they had a really, really tiny small business, and it was something that afforded them to be able to go and you know, kind of socialize with other people. They went camping. They had a small business, and then grandma was a special education school teacher. And so they went camping. You know, they didn't stay in hotels. There wasn't a lot of hotels, plus they were expensive. And so they utilized the things that were available of the time for them to have some socialization. For them, that was becoming part of a rockhound organization. And I have a huge appreciation of that memory from my grandparents because of the fact that Grandpa, I always ask Grandpa, how old are you? Grandpa says, I'm as old as dirt. And I thought, wow, as a kid, I kind of took that as coming from the dirt and going back to the dirt, because oftentimes there's that saying of ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So technically, we do come from the dirt and go back to the dirt. And so I realized after last night, the live stream that I did, there is some distinct differences related to the keywords that I could be utilizing related to some things. Unfortunately, you know, it's like, well, maybe it was a different time of the day too. And last night was, I mean, I was able to just vlog some things and talk about things last night. I think someone said they called it brain rot, what I was doing, and it's like, well, I really didn't think it was brain rot, but they called it brain rot. Or they mentioned that word. Let me see if I have any more comments here. Well, hello, big dog. My girlfriend said I have a blank stare. What exactly does that mean? A blank stare. Are you talking about, you're talking about a stare in your eyeball, not a stare that you walk up the steps, because we're training artificial intelligence at the same time we're talking about these things. And so when someone told me years and years ago that we're training the AI to understand the differences, that's the only reason I ask about these questions. But my definition of blank stare, it could be like it could be a poker face. I see it as having two different meanings possibly. A blank stare means of something of not being interested, or you're not sure if you should answer, or she asked you something, she wants to talk about something, you don't want to talk about it, so you go into kind of a blank stare and then kind of pretend that you didn't hear her. So it's like that hearing impediment thing of, it's like, well, hopefully she'll just forget about it and the question won't come up again. So the blank stare has a multitude of meanings, I think. So sometimes a blank stare is also an emptiness of something that's interpersonal within yourself. I know myself, that's something I noticed in myself, a blank stare related to lack of interest, because after abuse, it's like I would look at myself in the mirror and I would evaluate myself, and it's like, it's kind of like what my dad talked about after my husband was yelling at me back in, I think it was 2011 or 2012, 2013 time frame. And my dad said, "What happened to my little girl?" And it's like, I always felt like I was so happy. But up until the point I made myself happy. I was happy to be away from my family, clearly. And I was happy then after divorce to not be married, and maybe I should have never gotten married again. And then it's like, when I don't know what happened. Then once I moved back around my parents, it's kind of like, I don't know, for them it's like, it's just like I'll tell you, if you're an adult, do not, and you've left the area where you grew up, do not move back. I'm going to tell you that right now. Do not move back to the area. You're going to be rejected. Your parents are going to treat you like children, probably. They love you, but they're going to treat you like a child. And especially if you've had any ties with religion or anything like that, there could be that expectations of like, well, maybe you should think about going to church now, or something like that. So let me read what this person is writing, because it's a fascinating topic, actually. I find it to be a fascinating topic. So Big Dog says, I'm autistic, so I don't really show emotions, and I have depression and anxiety. I've been through childhood trauma. I'm really not that happy in my life now, and I lost my apartment job, and I had to move in with my parents. Well, that actually makes a lot of sense then. So yeah, the blank stare comes with depression, because it's like, what else do you have? It's zoning out. Zoning out from, you know what? This is what I'll say. We have inflation, which falls on deaf ears related to the leadership of this country. Now, not one person can actually fix inflation by their own self. So we know that people lose jobs, but at the same time, there's this expectation of going to work. Well, why do we have this expectation of going to work? There's a lot of people in this country. I would like to change the expectation of, why do we have to go to work? I would like to be a reverse type of a mentor, in the sense of, why is work so important? Can you tell me that? So, and I make this analogy to the United States military in asking, why is work so important? Why is work? Because the United States military brings people in. They hire people. They create jobs. Even though it's war, a lot of people don't like it. We know that. We know that we don't like war. Now, corporations are supposed to create jobs for people, but they're being greedy. So, my thought process is, how come we don't have a society that is more like the United States military in the civilian sector? Why can't we go back to that area where the investments are into the communities? We have small communities that function as a co op. A co op is a cooperation in the private sector. And and so if people are happy, they have a basic income that they can get by on. Work is overrated. If you put, okay, for example, the small town I grew up in, for the most part, my parents seemed to be pretty happy. They moved about 20 miles away from where my grandparents were both, yeah, all my grandparents were their childhood home. They moved about 20 minutes away. So they got away from their parents. They were all too happy. The both of them were, I think, very happy to move away. Except my dad. He seemed to. Sometimes it seemed like he was a mama's boy, and I don't know. Maybe it was because my uncle was born traumatic brain injured. Maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure. And so he probably had a lot of responsibility placed on him as a young man. I don't know. And but anyway, they moved away and they got into an area that was sort of like a co-op. It was like a farming. And so my dad was in the military for a while. I was technically he was active duty at the time. I was not long after I was born, I believe, because he needed some sort of income. And he didn't want to go to war, but he wanted to, they had to do the draft. And it's like, technically, when in hindsight, the draft actually probably was not a bad thing because they got paid. And so Christian people are too proud a lot of times. People in this country are too proud to accept money. Now, what is that? Most other normal people are like, please help me, please help me. But yet there's an element of people who are like, well, we were taught that we're supposed to make it on our own. So actually, the draft is not a bad thing. So if you can draft people into something for the purposes of helping them, I don't see that as a bad thing, especially with some reconstruction and reinvestments. Because my dad was helped by the military in some ways. But at the same time, I kind of was thinking, if I would have had that luck, I can't say that though, because I always said people who are taken care of and have lots of money, they don't complain about anything. They don't. People who have lots of money and they're well taken care of, they don't complain. The only thing they complain about is, like our current president, he complains about losing his business because he had millions and millions of dollars, billions, but he was performing bad practices. So let me go over it. So I think the co-op idea for the civilian community, in contrast to the military, and even maybe the draft, is not a bad thing. I mean, my grandpa was part of the CCC Corps, and the CCC Corps was Civilian Conservation Construction Corps, and they created a job for my grandpa at the time of the Great Depression. That wasn't a bad thing. And so Big Dog says, my mom keeps telling me to get a job every day, and it's making me, you know what? I don't blame you right there. I don't know how to handle that, because my mom did the same thing. When I was 18, graduated from high school, 18 years old actually, and my mom was saying, well, you've got to have a job or go to college. You can't sit around on your butt and do nothing. You got to be working. So, I was a girl, and I not that it's not an excuse, but I didn't realize there was an expectation that we were supposed to be working. But apparently now there is, so these men who are sports coaches, and some of you guys, I would like for you guys to challenge the sports area, because not all of you are interested in sports. And not all of you are going to be well-paid sports coaches either for football. And football is not a long-term career. It's just not. It's entertainment, and a lot of it is fake. So my mom did the same thing to me. At the time I was getting divorced, when I told them I was after domestic violent marriage. My mom actually told me that, and it's not helpful. My mom and my sister both. She says that every day. She will not stop hounding you. See, okay, yeah. I mean, that's the part that stinks. Is that creates. I give her $300 to stay here in your old room. Oh my goodness. See, that's the thing that well, I'll get into that, the $300 here in a few minutes. But see, when I got divorced the first time, my mom and dad were both saying, my mom mostly, she was saying, she was following what Dr. Phil was saying. If you're not working, your job is getting a job. That's what my mother told me. Your job is getting a job. And you're not supposed to quit a job until you have another job lined up. Well, but they weren't thinking through thoroughly. My parents weren't thinking through thoroughly. There's not enough jobs to be on the payroll of someone else. And so I was able to express that to them at the time my husband was physically abusing me. And my mom was coherent enough before she passed away. So at the time that she was passing away, though, people they lack coherence, and people call it Alzheimer's, I think, but I think it's part of the death process. And then she also had some radiation treatments too, which I think caused her memory lapses and things like that. So she fully understood what I was saying. My mother fully understood what I was saying when I told her, I said, there's not enough jobs for everyone to be on the payroll of someone else. But yet she worked at a hospital switchboard for a while. And I think that's where she learned a lot of that stuff from, because I think her working at the hospital switchboard, she told me, she says, well, if you're ever in a domestic violent marriage again, she says, you need to call the hospital. And I thought, well, what good is that going to do? What good is calling a hospital going to do? And so that's all she told me. And then when my second marriage, when I was in domestic violence relationship, she kind of went into the same thing. She's like, there's got to be services there for you. There's got to be services there for you. And that's what she was telling me. There's got to be a place for you to go. There's got to be money for you. And it's like, I've tried everything. There's not. That gets stressful. I know exactly what you're saying, big dog. 788. Your mom's in her mid-60s. She doesn't understand that times have changed. I don't know how to deal with that, because eventually I had to get mad. I had to get mad at my parents, the both of them, because at one point my dad told me I was full of shit. He says, you can take care of yourself. And so eventually I just started writing email messages to them, telling them about things about the childhood and how I didn't like religion and I didn't want to go to church. Eventually my dad sent me a letter and he says, this can be considered elder abuse. That's what my dad told me. He says, these email messages that you're sending me can be considered elder abuse. And it's like, well, really? So you just plain don't want to communicate. That's what he was saying, is he doesn't want to communicate. So I don't really have a good relationship with my dad. My mother's passed away. I didn't have a good relationship with her at all my whole life. And she was the one who was mostly the problem. My mother was the one who was the biggest problem. Not necessarily my dad, but my dad, I did have some problems with. He didn't say anything, though. He was the one who was quiet. He wouldn't say anything to me, because my mother had taught my dad not to say anything. She was the one who would say things. She was the one who was mean. And then she was kind of a bully. She was overbearing, and she always wanted me and my sister. She wanted my dad doing busy work on the weekend. So what would happen is when he'd come home from work, and then every weekend she would be like, you need to clean, you need to clean, you need to clean, you need to clean the house. And it's so there was something going on, I think, in my mom's house. That my mom said they were poor. That's the only thing I knew. They were poor. Their house was dirty. My mom said when she was a little girl, my grandma didn't have she said they slept in pissy bed sheets at night, because she said my grandma didn't change the bed sheets. And she said usually one of the sisters would pee in the bed and then they just slept in them the next night. And I was thinking, it's like, well, maybe did they have a washing machine? Probably not. I mean, this is like in the Depression era 100 years ago. That's when my parents were born, in the Depression era from 100 years ago. And, they were both on the farmlands. And, so that's what they know. And it's like, so my mom is mad because, well, and my grandpa, he worked for the railroad. My mom said back in the 1940s, in that era, he was making like $1,200 a month. It should have been considered, what they should have been considered wealthy, but for some reason, he just, she said he blew all the money. He spent it on himself. Um, And so, Big Dog, it's not the old days where you can walk into a place, fill out an app, and get an interview the same day. Sometimes my mom can be toxic, then she can be nice. It's not right. I would say that your mom probably, well, she's influenced. That's a bad influence by TV. So the thing I'll say about get a job, that's that Dr. Phil mentality. And so my mom was doing the same thing to me. She was saying, get a job, get a job, get a job. Um, and my dad was saying the same thing too. They're like, you don't quit a job until you have another job. That's what they would say. My parents would both say, you don't quit a job until you have another job. And that's kind of like saying, okay, well, don't let someone lay you off until you have another job. Now, is your company going to give you a warning before you're laid off? No, they're not going to. So with the corporate jobs, they're not going to tell you. They're just going to fire you. They're going to lay you off, or they're going to fire you. It's one thing or the other. And sometimes the companies actually will, if they know someone wants to quit, they'll actually fire them so they can get unemployment. So if there's someone that they would hire back, they rig that system, so it's like to the people who are laid off all the time, who are in that swing economy, being fired or being laid off, they don't care. They know how it works, and they know that they're going to be able to get a job. In fact, my second husband, he was basically fired as a supervisor from his, well, it was early termination. So he was fired from his job, making, what was he making, like at least 50,000 or 60,000 a year. He was fired. Then he went to a different place and got hired, making he was paid a little bit more, but he didn't get overtime. That was the difference. So he was basically fired from the last job that he'd had. They did a background check, and they hired him anyway. He was fired, and they hired him anyway. And they paid for a corporate move. That's so being fired is not the end all of anything, and I mean, it's like for me, I know, well, when we do things, it's hard to stay motivated. I get it. It's hard when you can't find a job. It's, my mom was of the same era. Now, actually, I think I'm probably older than your mom, and I understand this because of the fact that you have to apply for things through the internet. And so back in 2000, that's what everybody was telling me. You need to be out pounding the pavement every day, filling out those applications. Well, see, at that time in 2003, when I was graduating college, that era was, you filled out an application, plus they had an in-store kiosk. So good morning. Yes, big homie, it is a very interesting topic. Oh, I've been laid off. It comes out of nowhere. And we are brainwashed to work 24/7. We need universal income, especially for people with mental issues. Well, yeah, but the thing is, you're never going to get diagnosed with mental issues because our government does not recognize mental issues, and neither does the hospital institutions, because you know why? If at any given time a person is going to be having some sort of a mental breakdown, it's normal. Most people have a mental breakdown when they lose their income. I mean, don't you guys think that's normal? I do. I know I felt like shit when my husband was like yelling at me every day all the time. I mean, that's all he was doing, yelling at me, yelling at me. He was pissed at me because I was losing income from YouTube. He was mad. He was literally, and that's what a lot of that had to do with. Sometimes I think that he actually quit the last job that he had. Now that job was the cheapest for us to have insurance, was when he had that job. And I told him, I said, you know, we're going to be paying a lot more money for insurance if you quit, if you don't no longer work at that job. I said, you know, we're going to be paying more for insurance, don't you? And he's like, oh no, with affordable health care, it's cheaper. And that's what he was carrying on about. So he was always saying, he was saying like, oh, well, if I had a wife who's bringing home an income, then I'll take on the role of being a house husband and I'll do everything, which he didn't. He didn't do that. He still wanted me to do stuff. And so he didn't cook. He did the things that he could do. You know, he was like, well, I don't need you around to do my own laundry. I know how to do that, which I knew he did. He did his own laundry when I met him. And, you know, so it's like, well, he had expectations of something else. Um, well, universal income technically is another, no, not universal. I don't like the word universal because then the migrants want universal income from the United States. Maybe, you know, I like the word, I'm okay with the word universal, but I just don't want migrants coming in thinking, oh, well, the United States is offering this universal income, so we're going to come in and we're going to bully our way back into the United States, and we're going to say, well, we want some universal income too, you know. And it's like, no, it just don't work that way. Maybe they could have another word for it other than, you know, but the thing is, they got to get a cap on inflation, because then is universal income going to have a cost of living increase? Because when they would have to include a cost of living increase with a universal income. And right now there was a man on, oh, he was talking about the 401ks. And what he said with the 3% inflation, he said 401ks don't make any money. He said they're just not making any money right now. So people in retirement are not making any money. You want more stimulus? The stimulus checks did absolutely nothing. I didn't even get mine. My husband took the stimulus check. And you know what, we got two, I think it was two of them. One of them was $1,200. And how much was the other one? Maybe 2,000, I think. He took both of them. And so that was just the identical same thing. When we filed married jointly, we got more money back. But I was the one who had the self-employment business. And then he took the money and it went into his account. And then I didn't get the money, but even though it was my online business that was getting the tax break, he was, so to me, this is how you launder money from a wife who has the business over to the husband. And then he's a bully. He doesn't want to give the money to the wife for her business so she could use that tax subsidy that they got come tax time for her business. So I could have used there was a couple of times we got money back, like $2,500. So the tax preparation woman had told me, she says, well, the money was for your business. And so she told me that it was because of what I was doing on YouTube why we were getting money back. But he kept it. He kept the money. So I could have used that $2,500 to buy some equipment or yarn or supplies or something like that, and I would have been good for, yes, he stole my money. And yes, that's the same premise as with Wall Street. Yes, he stole my money. It's the same thing when I'm paying for a house and then he doesn't pay half. The house was never sold. And so I don't get, and now the price of the house has gone up since I put money into the house. So where's my investment for the future? The price of the house has gone up in value. So he wanted a quickie divorce before the price of the house goes up in value. And so it's like, I don't even think there was anything right about the divorce that we had related to the marriage. I mean, something was so wrong about the whole thing. And then, but I wanted to address what this other guy was talking about, paying his mom $300 a month to stay in the house. So the big dog was talking about that you give her $300 a month to stay in your own room. So you're helping your mom out in some way, or that's what it sounds like. Um, you didn't say how old you are. Can you give me a ballpark? You don't have to say exactly how old you are. Oh, I don't know if that person's still here or not. I was curious as to how old they are. He said his mom is about 60, and he's staying in her room, giving her $300 a month. He's staying in her room, and then she's telling him that he has to go to work every day or go find a job. Yeah, that's how money is stolen from a wife from one person to another. It's kind of this big homie. Listen to this. Listen to this. So my second husband had capital gains losses. So that meant he lost money during the first .com era. This was back in 2009, the late 1999, before I knew him. He waited to sell out from that until he got married to me so he could claim married capital gains. So he wanted to have a premarital agreement to exclude me from his pensions. Oh, you're 43, big dog. Okay. He wanted to have a premarital agreement to exclude me from his job and his pensions, but yet he wanted to utilize me and use me to get an additional $1,500 a year for capital gains loss. And so they have to have a wife in order to get the extra $1,500 that is a total $3,000. They have to be married. So a lot of times they'll just get married to someone or live with someone to claim capital gains. I'm not even sure if you have to be legally married. Let me look that up real quick and see if you have to be married to claim capital gains. Let's see if that's something. Let's ask. Okay, do you have to be married to claim capital gains with what is it called with loss? Do you have to be? No, you do not have to be married to claim capital gains or deduct capital losses. Single individuals and married couples filing separately can deduct up to $1,500 of net capital loss. So that means while married filing jointly can deduct up to $3,000 annually with unused losses carried forward to future years. And so they can carry that for a long time. So a person with capital gains, they can just go get, well, you could live with a man or a woman. So, yeah, but a man, typically men, see, that's why men, very wealthy, want a woman because they know she's not working. If they're with another man, see, if two men are living together, and the same gender folks might want to think about this. If two dudes are living together, both dudes are probably have their own income. One is not going to want the other one claiming them on their taxes. Now, just imagine this. So you guys know as well, I'm not going to stereotype. So you got two men who are living together, and maybe they're same gender relationship, maybe not. And they have some Wall Street holding. One has Wall Street holdings, the other doesn't. So one of them wants to claim the other one on his taxes so he can get an additional $1,500 for a total of $3,000 for capital gains. I mean, so the living together thing, there's a lot, and I know that's not a lot of money, but there's other things that they do as well related to um, the rules, because Congress seems to take a deaf ear related to brokerage companies for some reason. Well, just imagine if the United States government started applying capital gains on capital gains loss. They could. In HUD housing, they very well could. Capital gains losses on HUD housing, the HUD housing they have on Wall Street right now, and they do. If the United States government started taking capital gains losses on HUD housing that they have on Wall Street, I mean, that would be a lot of money. So imagine if this is going to sound ridiculous what I say right now, but it's intended to. Imagine if the United States government started taking, okay, so in some places they might have two soldiers living in the barracks together, and they both might be males. So imagine if the two soldiers living together found out that someone took a capital gains loss. Now this would fall under the sovereign, in some cases, the sovereign citizen movement of the trust estate planning. So think of if the United States government considered the barracks under one, let's just choose one set of barracks, and we're going to call it barracks. The barracks. And so there's a soldier living in the barracks, two per room. And each one of them is capital gains inside of there, and they're in the trust estate. So the barracks, okay, the higher name of the barracks is trust estate, and it's called the barracks. There's two of them per room, and maybe it's co-ed. Let's do co-ed, and there's 2 women per room, 2 guys per room, because that's all you can get. Oh, we're onto something here, aren't we? We're onto something. So you've got 2 people per room. Now you can't do 5. You can only do 2. So for example, you call it's trust estate is the name of the barracks. And the name of the building is the barracks. And then there's something in smaller print somewhere, it's capital gains. Each room is capital gains. It's going to be, well, you can do capital gains single as well. So you can have single capital gains, and that's just $1,500, but you're going to get more. See, 2 people per room is $3,000. 1 person per room is only $1,500. So you get less per room. So it's kind of like marriage. So this is sort of like Wall Street, in marriage. So with empty rooms and the trust estate planning, you can still get, so if someone owns it, so let's say there's another, you could just write another person in. You could just say soldier. You could just call it soldier A and soldier B, soldier 1, soldier 2. And that's what you could just call them, soldier 1, soldier 2. And so you've got right there, you've got your capital gains described through the military, where you're washing that money through. And that's how you would do capital gains through a government property building. You call it, what did I call? Oh, the trust estate is the higher name. Trust estate planning, trust estate. I'll call it trust estate, the barracks, and then each room is capital gains. And some are dual and some are single. But actually they could get away with it. They could have all the barracks empty. And just say soldier A and soldier B, because I know a lot of barracks are empty. And you could do that with any city that's laundering money. You could do that through any government building that's laundering money. And I think sometimes it really seems like they do that. It really does. And I know Senator Kennedy has addressed this. He addressed the issue of what he called it was someone going into a restaurant. He said they have a ticket for 100 people to go into the restaurant, they want them to sign off that 100 people were fed when they know darn well that 100 people were not fed. Now, if this wasn't a problem, he wouldn't have been raising the issue, but he knows in this hypothetical that it is a problem. Senator Kennedy knows this. I know it too, because I understand how this is working, and that's what they're doing. That's how you launder money. And so the thing is, but see, with capital gains, it's just set right now. It's set at $1,500 per person. So isn't that the weirdest thing, to think that you could launder money through HUD housing, through a military barracks in such a way? You call it trust estate, the barracks, and each room is capital gains. And you could literally teach a course by doing that at each military base on what capital gains is, and have them do financial planning and looking at Wall Street. I mean, these guys are smart. These men and women are smart. They're young adults. If they're interested, they're interested. If they're not, they're not. But a lot of them, it's a good way to teach how inflation takes place, because with the but see, the problem is, I wouldn't want someone to get enamored with thinking, oh, this is a quick, easy way to make money, because both sides need to be taught, because the financial losses are greater, and a huge risk, is my opinion, than the reward is. Because with the Fed chair running at 4%, well, we're at 4 to 6% with inflation right now. 4 to 9% is my understanding. They're trying to get it down to 2%, and it's just not working. So Big Homie says, my old roommate was drunk. He sat at home all day and got wasted. His parents paid his rent, and he was a spoiled kid while I had to work every day. He had some kind of trust fund or something. Oh, the Nepo babies. Well, isn't that kind of how people view the current, not to be too political, but I guess I'm going to be a little bit, the current president, because so he's setting in policy where he said something about, he was focusing on children, I believe it was born between 2025 to 2028 or 29 or something like that, and that the government was going to pay the parents of all babies born between that time frame $1,000. And it's like, well, at 3%, they're not going to earn a lot of money. Then he says, well, after that, the parents can just contribute the money themselves. And that's all that is. I mean, that's true. He's right about that. The president is right about that. You just contribute the money yourself. He's absolutely right about that. That's the same thing with the Roth IRA. So the man on TikTok, and my ex-husband, he said the same thing. The only money, what they worded is, the only money you can contribute to a 401k is earned income. That's true. Now a Roth, you just have to have money. It's like a savings account. You just have money. It's income from somewhere. And so a lot of times they word these things wrong. I don't know if it's just something they got used to doing because they were doing it at work. But see, a Roth is you pay yourself. It's kind of like a thrift savings plan that the military has, I believe. You just pay yourself. It's kind of like a savings account, sort of. You just pay yourself. And, and you hope that maybe you'll be able to retire one day. And that's like for women. If you have any income, you just pay yourself. If you're at home. Now, the problem with my first husband is it was like, well, he wanted me to, if I saved money, he wanted to spend what I saved. And I thought, that's kind of unfair, that, but see, basically what he's doing is saying, oh, well, it was my money. It was my money. You shouldn't be able to save my money as your own. And then I thought, well, how in the world do I ever get divorced? And that's the thing that I always thought. It's like, well, how do I get divorced? If I'm going to get an attorney, how do I get divorced? And so it's basically indentured servitude being married to a soldier sometimes when you think of it like that, when you're in a crummy relationship. Um, I mean, when you're in a bad relationship and you want to get out of it and you've been physically abused in the relationship, how do you get out of it? And I know this is a tough thing for some men to talk about, but I have to bring it up. I'm not trying to male bash, and some people have said that, but that's not my intentions, because it happens to a lot of people. It happens to children too. Children in these marriages and relationships. So, but if we don't talk about it, then it just becomes something that's always thrown underneath the rug, and nobody ever pays attention to it and realizes that it is a big problem. And there are a lot of women on TikTok and men now who are boys and talking about how they were molested in the church. And so something went on with their Bible camps that they went to. I mean, there was one lady I was listening to. I'm glad I don't know her name. I'm just relaying the story. And she said that she went to camp. She was afraid to even use the words, but she was molested is what happened. And she said she went to camp. She says she went to camp and the pastor did something. She says, I'm trying to say this. And the guy is like, well, what did he do? Basically marginalizing her and diminishing what she was saying. Well, what did he do? Basically he's saying they don't believe him. But that's what we get out of the migrants, the foreign nations and gig economy on TikTok, is these creeps from the sovereign nations who believe that you can have sex with a 10-year-old girl and that it's okay. That's what we get out of them. Well, you should have listened to your husband and he wouldn't have beat you. That's what they told me all the time. It's like, I can't stand them. I just had to get in and use the F word on them. It's like, I don't give a flying fuck about you losing your account on TikTok. I don't care if you do. I'm going to say what I have to say because I've had it listening to them rationalize, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're up against. Is the king mentality nations, the sovereign citizen nations, and the men who believe that they can have sex with 10-year-old girls because of the Bible. That's what we're dealing with. That's a mentality that we're dealing with on TikTok and on the internet many times. And oh my goodness, there was a lady yesterday. I actually recorded. I recorded the conversation. I wasn't on her panel, but I was talking as though I was on her panel. And so she was talking about someone who wanted to have a private conversation with her. And she said, that's just weird and creepy. Why does this man want to have a private conversation with me? And I often thought the same thing. It's like, what is it about these men from the foreign countries? They want to have a private conversation with you. In the inboxing. Now, this would be another reason. It's something we've already been through on YouTube. YouTube got rid of the inboxing. Now, they kept Gmail, but it isolates the email and connections further away from the platform. It's still there, but it isolates it further away. Now, it does cause somewhat of an alarm for people. You put your email up there and then they want to contact you through email, and then they want to tell you to go to Discord. They want to tell you to go to all these different places. That's what they do to me. So when I put my email address inside of my YouTube channel, they want to tell me, well, go to Discord. We can talk there better. It's like, well, why? You know what I was met with when I went to Discord? I was met with Somalia and India. India is there heavy. Now, the men from India, they want to molest and marry little girls too, and they don't give a shit about adult women at all. So they're even seeking marital relationships so that they can, I guess, start businesses in the United States. So I still evaluate this thing about migration and how it's good for the United States right now, because there's so much sentiment. I mean, they're trying to argue on TikTok right now how they're being discriminated related to our view on Sharia law. They're saying, well, we don't believe in Sharia law. Or they'll say that they're Islam and they follow those practices. They do follow the practices. They're admitting that. They follow the practices, but they they're saying, well, we don't do that stuff. It's permitted. They're saying it's permitted according to what our religious practices are. So they're basically admitting that that's something they believe in, and then they want us to support that. It's like they've lost their mind. They have lost their mind. So you can't rationalize or reason with that mentality. It's something we just have to let it go. They have to do it on, if there's other people who want to go in there and deal with them in another way or something, I don't know how you would do that, because they don't want to change. They want to be on the internet lying about what's going on. They want to say, oh yeah, this is what we believe in. Islam is not about all that, even though they're admitting that that's what they want. It's like, I can't talk to that, because they're nasty and disgusting. I just can't. It makes me sick to my stomach. And it's like, I see that even in the Bible. Now they're mad. They're upset. When I go on a platform, they get upset because of the fact I say, I see Sharia law in the Holy Bible. They're upset about that now, because of the fact that also ruins their narrative. When I say, okay, there's elements of of Sharia law inside of the Christian Holy Bible that carried over from the Middle East. And they're mad about that. It's like, well, why are you guys so mad over in the Middle East? What is it that you're afraid of losing? What is it you're afraid of losing? Because we see through what's going on. We see through your narrative of what you're trying to force and push on everybody. Okay, let's see what Big Homie says. Big Homie says, he had some kind of, my old roommate was a drunk, and he sat at home all day and got wasted. His parents paid his rent, and he was a spoiled kid while I had to work every day. He had some kind of trust fund or something. I think you have to keep working to put money in an IRA. Yeah, an individual retirement account is the same thing as a Roth. It's just a retirement account. It's a savings account. You just save the money yourself. That's all it is. It's like, you can call anything a savings account. And that's basically all it is just a savings account. You save money yourself. So the United States government has a thrift savings plan, which is basically you save money yourself. I don't know. I've heard that they match sometimes. I don't know if they do. Well, unless they're calling it Social Security. It might be Social Security related to the FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare taxes. That could be what they're calling the thrift savings plan. I don't know. So Big Homie says, I never put hands on a woman. That's what cowards do. You remember when you could message people? Yes, I do remember when I could message people on YouTube. They took that away. So I don't go on Discord. There's too many weirdos, though. They do private groups and they pick up people on Discord. They're lying to you. They absolutely believe in Sharia law. Yeah, I know they do. So you're not going to get anywhere with me, so I can't stand them. I can't stand the ones from the Middle East, and as far as that goes, and the ones who don't speak English, they don't speak English. The ones who do speak English, I have to wonder what their intent and motivation is, because it's like, well, so you're just sowing some sort of discord or something, or you're part of RICO, the racketeering organization. I always forget what RICO stands for. I need to, RICO meaning, let's see what the meaning is. Oh, racketeering influenced corrupt organization. It's a federal law passed in 1970 to dismantle organized crime by targeting the leadership of criminal enterprises rather than just lower-level perpetrators. It allows prosecutors to charge individuals with a pattern of racketeering activity, at least 2 related crimes, bribery, murder, fraud, within 10 years. I would think they could do that in marriage. I would think they would be able to do that within a marriage, racketeering, because I feel like my ex-husband did that to me. I mean, he So the thing is, it's like with the way he did things, the, I mean, that's racketeering right there. And so he was physically violent. And then the way he had things set up under the trust estate, I mean, that's the sovereign citizen movement right there, because that's all he talked about. That's all he talked about. Um, and then he also, another thing he always talked about too was that oh, well, black people, if they want to get change in the United States, they have to be violent. And he's not the only one I've heard say that. And I've said, well, why? You don't have to be violent. You could call your politician. Well, what good is that going to do? It's like, well, have you ever tried? No. It's like, well, why don't you try? Why don't you call him up? Why don't you try instead of just being a jerk? And it's like, my gosh, I told him, I said, you know what? You had a really good paying job. You were in leadership. That's something I've never been able to do. Something I've never been able to get into is leadership. I would have liked to have been in, oh, he does. He is a domestic terrorist as far as I'm concerned. They stink. Yes, they stink. They don't wear deodorant. Yeah, the ones from India. The women are saying that. That's on YouTube. The women are literally saying that in videos, that they stink, they don't wear deodorant, and they said that I think they're relating it to eating the curry for some reason, that the curry is causing a body odor within their body and it stinks. They take baths in sand. Yeah, my ex was a domestic terrorist. I mean, I can play some of the video if you want to hear it. Yeah, they do stink. Sometimes they have like a garlic smell too that stinks. It's nasty and disgusting. Um, yeah, I mean he was I was calling him a terrorist at the time that he and I were still married, because I could, it was just like I was recording everything that was going on, and then we were hearing about that there was these people who were supposed to be listening to us and helping us on the internet related to the police and things like that. And then it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. Yeah, I submitted that to the courts, and so I don't know what happened with, I don't know what the breakdown was with the jail and stuff, like, because everything was going on during COVID. And then the judge put him back in the house. And I don't know why the judge put him back in the house and made me homeless. That's what they did. I mean, this county is corrupt beyond corrupt as far as I'm concerned, related to what they did. It's like, you don't make someone, to me, it's like, well, why are you going to reward the criminal? And that's what you did. You rewarded a criminal. You rewarded a criminal. I mean, and oh, Ted Kennedy was saying, was it Ted? Not Ted, John, the old guy who's a senator, and I think he switched parties. And he said, he was asking a guy yesterday, he says, would you treat someone differently related to crimes because of the color of their skin? He was asking this of one of the people who was at a hearing, and he said no. And the senator says, I didn't think so. I didn't think you would. And so, but that's all we hear out of the Democrats is, and this terrorist organization that comes out of the sovereign nations, and the racketeering influencing organization, is that they want to be treated differently. That's all I hear on TikTok, is how they want to be treated differently, and they call us racist, and if we say things, and so to me, it's like they're just they're just being assholes. They're not something I would want in this country. If I was Wall Street, I would cut all ties with them. I wouldn't move anything further. If I was Elon Musk, I wouldn't go any further with India. I'd just cut all ties with him altogether, because he's not going to get anywhere with them. They're just going to keep doing the same thing. It's just going to get worse. And it's like, why support something that's going to be harmful further to your own country? If I was Elon Musk, I would invest in the United States instead of in these foreign nations. because these foreign nations don't want to change. And I'm going to tell you right now, the anti-campaign that's going to go against Elon Musk is that he is he is investing in countries that allow for men to marry 10-year-old girls. He's investing in Sharia law. If we want to argue it that way, then Elon Musk is investing in Sharia law in sovereign nations who allow for little girls to be raped and molested by old men. And that's not going to go over very well, because I think that could move pretty fast against Elon Musk related to what he's doing. And he's just going to completely lose out altogether, because, then people are going to be like, well, why are we wasting this money on a man who is allowing for this to come into the United States, and he's causing harm on women while we have our own Jeffrey Epstein issues taking place within the United States itself. Even Donald Trump is allowing for it too. Donald Trump is allowing for racketeering, RICO, the racketeering influenced. I mean, there's a lot of them. I would call Elon Musk a terrorist organization. I'd call Donald Trump a terrorist organization. NBC, terrorist organization right there. So, well, and India and Africa and, the thing is, it's like they want to do things. Well, why is it the responsibility of the United States to take care of other countries? Now we have inflation, and so we have inflation in this country, and so, but it seems like these other countries, though, are, well, we have some sort of relationship though with China, though, because they are making products. But yet, the thing I've seen on TikTok is the products they're making seem to be, well, they're over there just destroying products is what they're doing. So they're making things and then just destroying it. So why do you just destroy products unless it's for the purpose of, well, someone gave you money, we're just going to waste it. We're making junk products to send to other countries, and then they're marking the price up. And like, why do we want to buy junk products? So that's really what it seems like. A bunch of junk products that we really don't need is being produced in China, coming out of China. Yes, absolutely. The Native American tribes are sovereign citizens, especially the ones from Canada. They become a big part of the problem. So this guy on my YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, who has a thing about 401k and retiring, I believe he's from Canada, and I can't stand him. I've been listening to him a lot and hearing his voice a lot on TikTok. I can't stand him at all. Because at one point he let me up on a lot of panels, and he's like, oh, here's one who's a friendly, but then that's all he talks about is how he hates white people. He hates the United States government. He is anti-American. So there's a lot of anti-United States. He's an anti-United States, anti-American even. So why is he even living in Canada if he's anti-American? So he's up there in Canada sowing a whole lot of discourse out of Canada. And so the tribes are a big part of the problem too. Because, the thing, so for example, what they said was, capitalism in some ways does steal things. I mean, that's just a given. Now, we've talked about the casinos. We have Las Vegas. The casinos technically, and the lottery, That's something that the United States government took over. But at the same time, um, at the same time, it's like, well, they were doing it on the smaller reservations and making money. So the government took it over. So then they are getting mad because they said their was put out of business. Well, their business is just generating wealth out of thin air, is basically what they were doing. Generating money out of thin air. And so, like, with me drawing here, I kind of felt like I was teaching something, that I was performing a service because I can draw, I can crochet, I can teach something. So I'm teaching a service through the internet that I don't get paid for now. So I was just generating an income for myself. That's all I was doing. I didn't want to become a billionaire. I thought maybe a millionaire could have been nice. You know, maybe having a house or something would have been nice. You don't have rights on the reservations. Well, you know what? I'll tell you something, big homie. The United States military doesn't have rights on the reservations either, is my understanding, that they lose their rights. So when you talk about tribes, the United States military is a tribe as well. And they don't have, there's certain rights that they don't have. They give up their rights to join the military. Did you know that? But I didn't know the wife was supposed to give up her rights because her husband is in the military, so that he can just abuse her and do things to her, and that the chain of command won't do anything to help the wives and spouses out. And that's the type of sentiment that you have. And so there's a certain element of the Sharia law nations on the United States military bases that's very dangerous, because then it becomes ingrained within the United States military, where you have these men who have tendencies to be criminals, and they continue spouting out this anti-United States sentiment. And so, no, I don't believe the United States government can do whatever it wants to. A lot of people say that, but you know what? The individuals, they end up getting in trouble. You've been pulled over by tribal police. I don't know what tribal police is. I've never seen a car go by that says tribal police. And you know those men that are always hanging around outside of places, like outside of transient hotels and locations? They just look like bullies to me. I can't stand them because they're the ones who stink. The majority of them stink. They're smoking those big nasty cigars. They stink, they smell bad, and they're smoking stinky products. I mean it smells horrible. I mean, it smells like the drugs that comes out of the India hotels is what it sounds like to me. The India transient locations. I mean, they just smell terrible. And they look awful as well. They look like a bunch of criminals as far as I'm concerned. And they have no respect for women at all. None. They look like they belong in a prison somewhere. Okay, here. You live in Oklahoma, so there are reservations. You've had to drive through the reservations. They're actually called light horse police for some reason, and those native cops are very racist. Well, why would you say they're racist? Well, you know what? The ones on the yes, they are racist. The ones on the native Indian, of course, the tribal lands where the Indian reservations are at, yes, they're very racist. They're racist against the United States government. Now, I think about it, when you're throwing out all this racism stuff and you're anti-United States, anti-American, you are racist against a government. And that's what the RICO is. That's what RICO is racketeering, influenced, and corrupt organizations. That's where the sovereign nations become RICO. That's where they become RICO. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want those men anywhere around me. They're disgusting. It's like, you know what? They're making trauma worse. You know, so I've already been traumatized by my marriage and then by the shitty ass fucking piece of shit India piece of shit man who was illegal. Him and his piece of shit son. I can't stand them. They need to be in prison as far as I'm concerned. And they need him. They can deport his son as far as I'm concerned. I don't even think his son is legal. That's probably why they didn't want me calling the police on him. I called the police corporate though. I called the police corporate. I said, well, I consider the police corporate. You know, that's the only other corporate that I have to go to is the United States government. And so these money people, these Wall Street only exists because of the taxpayers. Otherwise, Wall Street has no platform. Same thing with the internet. This racketeering going on through the internet, through Bitcoin. I'm going to call it Bitcoin RICO racketeering. You know, so that's kind of how I look at it. I don't see it any other way. Bitcoin racketeering. You know, because they've weaponized the monetary system. And I've said this for quite some time, but it's gotten worse. We actually see it on Wall Street if you follow any of the stocks. I don't like to promote any of them too much because it's like, well, I mean, I don't have anything in them. And I will the ones that are really, really expensive. I mean, we could kind of look at Warren Buffett possibly as being a form of Bitcoin, I suppose. But see, what they're doing, this is my opinion right now. So they're taking these mutual funds that are government funds that they can't buy into, and then they'll call them certain names. And sometimes the government funds do change names, and then they're saying that someone is stealing the money. Well, sometimes I'm not even sure that they're actually something that the public could even trade in. It just might be a government fund. It just might be a government fund, you know, that nobody, do you want someone buying all of the United States for the purposes of stealing it from the United States? Is that what you want? I mean, but at the same time, I do recognize inflation and Wall Street is a big part of the problem within the United States. It just is. So, you know, when you just raise prices higher on the American public, you're passing the costs off to the United States public, and you expect people who don't have incomes to pay for some billionaire. That's the problem right there. That's not so hard to see, but apparently for those who are in power, it is hard to see because it spoils their narrative. This is where I say Congress has become RICO, as far as I'm concerned. Congress is a racketeering, influenced, corrupt organization right now. Them and the parties. Well, yes, digital currency most definitely is a scam. You know, they're trading now. I'll tell you something. At one time, YouTube had told us that you couldn't sell parts of the website. That's what they told us. You can't sell parts of the website. They didn't allow for that. But then they started allowing for it. They were selling it their own self. YouTube started selling parts of its own website. So, okay, down here at the bottom. So when you have wait a second. Let me go into, I'll tell you here in just a second. If I can get into my account. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to tell you what part it's in. Oh, there's a TED Talk of healing adult survivors of children of abuse. I kind of want to, let me add it to the queue and save to watch later. That's what I'm going to do. I'll watch it later. Okay, so let's go in here to earn. I'm going to go in here to earn. I'm going to explain to you right here through the supers. Super chat, super stickers, super thank yous help engage with your community and feel supported with supers. And you can earn each time fans buy a highlighted chat or animated message. So you know what? That is selling parts of YouTube. Now YouTube says they can sell parts of their own website. Other people can't do it. So right there with the super chats, super stickers, and super thanks, that's how you do Bitcoin things through YouTube, and it can be any amount. Once I reach my 3,000 watch hours, I'm going to be eligible for super chat and super stickers. Now, if someone wanted to give me a whole bunch of money through super chats and stickers, they could. Now, I don't have that kind of following. If I just had one person who donated a whole bunch of money to me through that means, then they donate, then they keep donating and donating and donating to me. Just one person. So I mean, but it's legal though. What else do they have on here? So the shopping, what's the shopping? Share products on your channel from your own store or the YouTube shopping affiliate program. I don't know what the YouTube affiliate shopping program is. I have no idea what that is. I never knew what that was before, that there was a YouTube shopping. I know they had a beta testing of something related to YouTube shopping at one point. They were beta testing something because I did get a few free products from something that was it was connected through a third party app on YouTube. And so I got some things that were nice, things that I actually needed and would use. And I thought it was kind of nice to be getting things that I needed and would use instead of things that I'm not going to be able to use, so so here, this is pretty cool. This has turned out pretty cool. How many watch hours do I have? Well, okay, let me look here and see. Well, I have to, let me see here what I've got. Let me get into my analytics. I'm going to tell you what I have to have 3,000 within a year period, I think, 4,000 watch hours to go full on monetize. So for the past 365 days, I've got 2,500. And so for a lifetime, I've got 3,000. So I did hit, I hit the 3,000K. Within the past 48 hours, I hit the 3,000K because I was at 29. So I'm at 3,000 total. That's lifetime since 2024. But in order for me to be full on monetized again, I have to get the 4,000 watch time hours, which means I have to clock in 1,000 more hours. But it has to be, the 3,000 has to be within a year period, which means that I have to carry 3,000 watch time hours. That means I have 500 more watch time hours to clock in before I hit the 3,000 to get the super chats and super stickers. You've given, well, if I put PayPal on my YouTube channel, people could donate, but they never did before. That was the whole thing. I liked the monetization better. I liked being monetized where they would, where an advertiser picked something that they thought was relevant to other trends. That's what I liked. It's like, well, if I can figure it out and I can do something, like gaming is popular. I've kind of figured that out a little bit, the gaming. And there's a lot of things I figured out. The drawing, it's like, well, I learned that I can draw a little bit better than I thought I could. And I've had fun doing the drawing sometimes. And then I can still do a little bit of crochet and things like that. And so, I kind of thought that I was doing something that is teaching something, teaching something that people kind of like, young folks kind of like during the summertime. They like finding something to do. And so I'm just, I'm not the traditional perfect teacher who says that you have to do things perfectly, because my art teachers never did that to me. I really should do the cubism again, a cubism drawing. That's what I'd like to do, is maybe in the future I'll do a cubism. And see, YouTube has a cubism, which is really, really cool. They call it different. Some of them, they call different names sometimes, and they have different filters. And so but the cubism is kind of I think my middle school teacher called it Dadaism. And but there's other names for it. So it's kind of like drawing things within squares. Um, so you're making shapes that are kind of you're making a shape out of a shape, but you're utilizing abstract, uneven, asymmetrical type squares for your drawing. Um, well, maybe I can draw a little bit in here, and let's see. So how would I do? So let's draw one more bird. Let me draw another bird in here. Let's draw another bird that's kind of dive bombing. I'll make it a little bit larger. I don't know if I have enough room. It's sort of like the Minecraft. The Minecraft stuff is sometimes, okay, I'm going to have to make the wing a little bit larger this time. Let's make it a little bit larger. Okay, so let me see if I can do some asymmetrical. So I don't know if you can see that. So I'm doing a little bit of asymmetrical design in here, which is, okay, I'm going to go outside of the line a little bit like that. So I'm just drawing, let's see. Okay, do you see what I'm drawing there? I'm drawing some little boxes. Asymmetrical meaning they're uneven. Uneven shapes there on that bird. And I'd probably do better to make an asymmetrical type design on something larger, some sort of larger drawing. And so we still have the idea of a bird being here, but we have a lot of asymmetrics in here. So this bird is just a little bit different than the other two. Actually, all three birds are different looking. They're birds. So we've got kind of this darker bird, then a lighter colored bird, and then the asymmetrical bird right there, which is cubism. It's a cubism type of a bird because it's just uneven shapes. Kind of like the coloring. We have a coloring app on YouTube. I love the coloring because the little coloring app filter is you have a drawing, you take a picture of something, and then it sees your drawing, and then it turns it into the coloring. So, but it's scribbled though. So it really kind of modifies and alters and changes your drawing a whole lot, not just a little, but a whole lot. And that's why I really like it, is because it just turns it into something that's completely different from what you made. So you can't even really tell. There's nothing there of what you made. Absolutely nothing exists there of what you made. And something else that I recognize too, at the other place I was at that was the stinky migrant India place, if I live stream, I would get throttled. And so even when I was at even when I was at the house, I was getting throttled all the time too, and I didn't know why. It's like, well, why am I getting throttled? What's going on? The only thing I could think, YouTube always said, well, maybe it's the time of day, the community where you're at, possibly. Is there a big pull on your internet? But this migrant place, though, they were doing, you know what they were doing? They were doing high volume calls. They were functioning as a high volume call center out of this hotel. It was a transient location hotel, and they were doing a high volume call center out of it. And I think a lot of it was scams, because they were literally calling me, and they had taken my phone number. I think they used my phone number that I gave them when I checked in. And then they asked me again. I had checked in, and they asked for my phone number. And I gave them the old phone number because I had to change it. And so then the manager had tried to call me one time. He's like, well, I've called you. I've tried calling you. I can't get a hold of you. And I'm like, oh, well, I said, did you try on the room phone? You could have called on the room phone. Why couldn't the manager of the hotel, if he owns a hotel, why couldn't he utilize, why did he have to burn my phone? So that's a problem that I've said with the phone companies when they limit you to how many hours and how many, when you have a tiered down system, to how many hours that you have. And then these migrants are actually spamming you. They're spamming you with your phone. You have a limit of how many hours you have until you have a step down system where then your hours are burned up. And it's like, well, okay, you used up all my hours spamming me with a bunch of garbage spam. And it's like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you guys. I don't want to talk to you about your nasty crap from your country or about dating or anything like that. I don't want to talk to you. I don't like you guys. I just don't. You're pigs, you're disgusting, and you're nasty. I don't want anything to do with them. And then they're literally using the call centers through the United States with their migration program that they got going on, their illegal migration program. And then they're using that to terrorize me through my phone. Can I have your phone number? Can I have your phone number? No. I don't want to give you my, now I don't even, and because my phone is set the way it is, I can't even have, if a real person tried to call me, everything is set to spam now, and to not recognize unknown phone numbers. So for people who might be trying to call me to get through, it's like it defeats the purpose of even having a phone now. Because if someone who is important tried to get a hold of me, they can't, because of these nincompoops. I mean, they're terrorizing us through the phones, through the call centers. The call centers should be designated a RICO, a racketeering, influenced, corrupt organization, as far as I'm concerned. Especially the ones from India who are illegal, and they're the ones who want to transfer data over to India. And that's what they're doing. Not just data, they want to transfer, they want to record people in the United States, and I thought that was illegal. According to the police, it is. Okay, so let's see. I don't even like using their Wi-Fi when I stayed at that godforsaken India hotel. Brian Ellis says, hello, I don't mind to cover on my dad's phone. Don't use their Wi-Fi network. Well, when that's the only one that you have, I know the Wi-Fi network that I have that I pay for is terrible. I can't live stream anything. Yeah, that's true. That's all they do is scam phone call. That's all they do. They make up stuff. They actually have the ability to take your personal information, and then somehow they're able, oh, let me tell you this, when they're sitting at a hotel, they can take your personal information, put it in to a hotel inside of the United States. I need to write this down. They can put it inside of the hotel that they own inside of the United States, and then input the information that way. I don't know if they can mask it, if there's a way to mask it or not, or to cover it up, or put it in through some other way. Just basically where they steal it. I don't know if there's a way to mask, though. That's what I was thinking, because I know a lot of people have said they've just had money disappear. So if they're talking to someone on a scam, doing a scam and a bait, and I was trying to think of, transactional, if they're sitting in a high volume call center inside of a United States transient hotel, and if there's an alternative means of inputting, well, they could, yeah, they very well could. They could do a transfer into any one of those They could do a transfer into Cash App as far as that goes, and then Cash App probably doesn't even show up. So when you check into the hotel with your credit card, they get access to your name. Yeah, your name, your phone number. They take a picture of your driver's license. They know where you used to live. There's all kinds of things that they have access to. They have access to everybody's phone numbers. And, the thing I've always said is, well, okay, they claim to be migrants. They don't know any better. So then they can sell that information to foreign nations. They can literally take your information because they're doing a migrant-ran hotel for their own people, for the most part, while they're taking United States money and United States tourist money, and then they can sit in there, get your personal information, and then scam you by calling through a Google Voice number, which is masked, asking for your credit card information and donations and things like that. And they could pretend to be a some of them have called and pretended to be that they're for the policeman's ball or something like that, or donating to a police foundation or something like that. So there's all kinds of scams they got going on. Yeah, they do. They are dumb. They do act dumb, and they are dumb. They know what they're doing, though. The thing is that someone taught them how to milk that system. Someone taught them how to steal. That is the mark of RICO. The ones from India, that's a racketeered, influenced, corrupt organization. So they call it a targeting enterprise. RICO is a targeting enterprise that focuses on an organization that acts as a unit to commit crimes such as mafia gangs, fraudulent corporate structures. That's a fraudulent corporate structure right there. The India ran hotels in the United States, when they're doing that stuff and they're functioning a call center inside of the India ran hotel, that's a corporate structure. I don't even think they were licensed. I think they put up an old sign. I don't even think they were licensed. Penalties. Violations can result into up to 20 years in prison per count, substantial fines, and forfeiture of assets. Civil RICO. Victims of racketeering can sue for triple damages in civil court. Oh, I didn't know that. That's fascinating. I wonder how you'd get a RICO lawyer. Because I stayed in one of those shitty-ass places, and it's nasty. I mean, I have nothing nice to say about males from India at all. They didn't make themselves look good at all. Just like my ex-husband, he didn't make himself or his cause look good. None of what they're doing, these racketeering organizations, none of what they did made themselves look good. But I guess it's going to take some other folks to speak out about it. Do you guys remember when AOC was really upset? What was it, her? Or who was it upset when the RICO people mob went to the big cities and they were really upset about things? So they didn't want it in their own neighborhoods. They wanted it in other people's neighborhoods. So you've acted dumb when you're at work so you could get out of doing something. They shouldn't be able to buy a hotel when they are immigrants. I don't understand how they do it. You're very talented, cool drawing. I kind of like the Bernie Sanders. I agree with you. They shouldn't be able to buy a hotel. I know how they do it, though. So they have someone who is in the United States. You know how they do it? Their hotel is actually lumped under a... Well, they do have to license locally, though. So I think they have to have a real person. So they've got like a child or somebody who is who is putting their name on the dotted line. So someone who is a legal United States citizen is signing off on, they're signing off on the licensing of the hotel and the purchase and things like that. So the person who is signed off on it should be getting charges against, federal charges against them too. So whoever signed off on it, and submitted the information to the local government. Now, if the local government on the local grassroots level, if they submitted fraudulent name information, then now that's going to be another problem. Then the civic leaders in that case, which this county that I live in seems to have an awful lot of RICO fraud, is my understanding, racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. And so I have a feeling that that's probably where it's going to go, that there's going to be a lot of arrests related to the civic city governments in the crimes that they've been allowing to take place, because there's a lot of Wall Street in the area within travel and tourism. And so they're actually harming the local infrastructure. They're harming the local infrastructure of the people who live here. And I agree with the woman. There was a woman on TikTok the other day. See, sometimes sometimes I'll hear a woman and she sounds a lot like myself, and so I just listen to her because it's like, well, there's no point in me going on that panel because I'm just preaching to the choir and we're making each other feel good about that. We know there's some garbage going on. And she said she's tired of people who live 6 states over running something in her immediate area. And so this is a big problem for people with this racketeering influence organization they've got going on with these crime organizations coming into the United States with the cartel. That's what they've been talking about, is the cartel. And and so they're influenced through the internet, and the drug cartel, through the internet cartel, crypto cartel. They're all they should all be designated terrorist organizations with the money laundering and everything they're doing through Wall Street and all the crimes that they're doing. And so even some of the church people. So it's like, I don't want to keep giving my taxpayer money to criminals. And that's what's happening. They're giving it to criminals. Well, they're leaving the rest of us high and dry. They're harming. They're causing a financial harm on the United States public. Alrighty, I think that's about it. I think I'm done with this one for right now. Let's see if we have any more comments before I go. Oh, you like Bernie Sanders? They said Bernie Sanders is done. He's old. Bernie's done. So, I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but he's done. I mean, the thing that Bernie will do from now on, yeah, you have a good day too. The thing that Bernie will do from now on is, I think Bernie has tried to embrace women at the end of his career. That's what I see. Both Bernie and Joe Biden tried to embrace women and turn things over to women, but there's been so much resistance from the crime organization, from the racketeering, influence, corrupt organization that they don't. Yeah, you have to do some yard work. A tree fell over during a tornado. Oh, you're over there in Oklahoma, aren't you? So, alrighty, you have a good day too. We'll see you later. Oh, so you're helping you're helping your parents clean up. Oh my goodness. Well, are you near, let me ask you this. Are you is it near Oklahoma City, or is it in the sticks of Oklahoma? I used to have a relative who lived near Enid, Oklahoma. I thought was kind of funny. I thought that was a funny name. Oh, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Um, yeah, that's. I've been through Oklahoma. It's rather a boring state, just like where I grew up was a very boring state. Nebraska's a boring state. The Midwest, for the most part, away from cities, is pretty. It's a very lower stressful life. Yeah, boring is good. I want it to be someplace away from the crime. Yeah, Kansas. I liked Kansas too. Kansas is very boring. Even I think Colorado. Colorado is boring, but however, Mother Nature interferes a lot with Colorado. But of course, Mother Nature interferes all the time, though. So every once in a while, there is Mother Nature says, "Well, we're going to make things less boring, and we're going to have a tornado, or we're going to have a mudslide, or we're going to have a big icy storm, or a rock cliff slide in Colorado, maybe even a mountain collapse." So sometimes Mother Nature does intervene a little bit to make things less boring. But for the most part, I know I agree with you. I like the boring life, and I want to be someplace and be in a boring life away from all this drama, because city life drama stuff where I'm at right now is too much even sometimes. I don't know where to go. If I had a place to go, I want to go and just be there, and it's like I want to be in a nice quiet place where nobody's bothering me. I want to have enough money to take care of myself and have a car, transportation, and maybe do what I do on YouTube still, a little bit of drawing and teaching, and, be in a boring life. You want to go to Florida? You go to Florida. I would tell you Florida's probably not a good place to go, and I actually have, if you're going to visit, that's one thing. If you're going to visit, I wouldn't buy anything there, because right now the United States government is saying that the insurance companies are not insuring houses. Jacksonville is huge. I don't want to live in Jacksonville. I don't like Jacksonville. Jacksonville is too big. Your parents I've been to Jacksonville before my own self. I did a cruise out of Jacksonville, and the cruise was actually kind of fun. If I would, the cruise would have been more fun if I would have went alone and my husband wasn't with me. I would have had a lot. I would have loved to have gone on a cruise without my second husband. And I don't know, maybe I can one day. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe I can one day. I don't know. I thought it would have been fun. Or maybe I can do a riverboat cruise if I find a new husband one day that I want to get married to, possibly. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll, maybe that'll be a honeymoon thing. I don't know. I mean, it's just something would be fun that he would probably enjoy if he's like me and he just likes things that are quiet, and maybe a little riverboat cruise to the United States along the Mississippi River or something. That would be kind of fun, And I really wouldn't mind going to Canada. Jacksonville is one of the biggest cities. I know Jacksonville is huge. And I'm not going to say it's that bad, because I've driven through Jacksonville before, and it wasn't that bad to go through. Now, it does have its traffic. There is a load of traffic in Jacksonville, a ton of traffic through Jacksonville. But I took the outer bypass, and then I realized, the outer bypass was really, really busy. Now, the whole point of the outer bypass through Jacksonville, Florida, the whole premise of it was to alleviate Interstate 95 through Jacksonville. And then, so when we go through Jacksonville, then when you take the outer loop, that adds a whole lot more miles. But when you go straight through Jacksonville, then you're going through the city. And so, yeah, Fort Lauderdale is spring break. Yeah, Fort Lauderdale is spring break. Isn't it? Isn't it spring break time, Fort Lauderdale? I always thought it would have been fun. You know what? As many cruises as I did, I kind of did have sort of a spring break. I did. I got to do that. I really wish I would have done it with someone else, though. That's the thing in hindsight. I have to think of these cruises as memories and just erase him out of the cruise altogether and maybe replace my imaginary husband. I'm taking it. See, my imaginary husband is the man that's in the picture in my profile. That's my imaginary husband in that picture. That's the man that I want to be married to. And there is a couple of degrees of separation from the photo of what the photo really is. But I think he did that to me too, because when I put my picture in, I ended up, you know what? I ended up with the picture that's in the picture. Yes, and absolutely. But you know what? When I put the picture in, then it's like, wait a minute, this looks like his paralegal. It's like, what in the world? Did you take a picture of me at one point or someone who looked like me and put me in there and you turned me into an AI? Because this kind of looks like me. And so I took a picture of a lawyer. Actually a picture that I took of him. I took the picture of him and put him in there. So yeah, I have an AI lawyer as my husband, and I'm the paralegal apparently, which that would be a complete conflict of interest. And so, but I was looking at the picture of his paralegal, and I'm like, oh my God, you took a picture of an old white lady who looks kind of like me. You put it into AI, and you ended up with the paralegal who is your AI paralegal now. Yeah, I don't want AI. I want a real life man, though. I don't want AI forever. AI is not fun forever. I want to get back into real life, not just AI. I want a real life relationship. The AI stuff sucks. I mean, I've been listening to what they do and what they talk about all the time, and it's rather ridiculous when they do that. My guy, my guy, my guy, my guy, my guy, my guy. It's like, okay, are you guys? Well, you can have your guy if you want a guy. You go have your my guy. You have your my guy by yourself. You sound really ridiculous. You go have my guy, my guy, my guy, my guy, my guy. Well, a magpie is a bird, right? It sounds like like magpie. A magpie. Well, oh, I gotta write that down. Magpie bird. Magpie. A magpie. I think it's Magi. Not Maggie. Magi. M-A-G. I'm going to spell it out, Magi, till I figure out what it is. There's birds, though. There's a Magi. I thought there was a Magi bird and a magpie bird. They're sort of like crows. That would be kind of fun to draw something like that. I think that would be kind of fun to draw something like that eventually. But this is a fun photo, and maybe I'll be able to get some AI. I had a warning that I made too many videos yesterday. Can you believe that? I made too many videos yesterday. I uploaded too many videos yesterday, and I got in trouble. Yes, a magpie is a crow. Yes. I was thinking, well, let's look it up. I think I've got time. I've got plenty of time. I can look up and see what a magpie is, a magpie. But I thought, okay, a magpie is a bird. Oh my goodness. And there's also the magpie murders. A magpie duck, a magpie loader. What's a magpie loader? A magpie is a bird. Yeah. What's a magpie loader? A magpie is a manual loader, a mag pump, a mag loader. Oh, that's ammunition. A magpie mag loader is ammunition. Did you guys know that? Kinetic blossom magpie load entire mags at the push bottom dramatically faster than the typical manual loaders. 1,000 plus magazines per charge. So they've actually lawyered their way through some of these Second Amendment things in using different wording for the sales so that at least they can sell it through the internet. Okay, so let's look up magpie. Magpie bird. Magpie bird. Magpie bird. Okay, let's see what a oh, they're pretty. Oh my gosh. Okay, so magpies are highly intelligent black and white long-tailed members of the crow family. Oh my gosh. Look at this. Okay, they're a Coravati found in the open woods, parks, and suburban areas. Known for their bold, social, and sometimes aggressive nature, they are omnivorous, eating insects, fruits, and small animals. They typically live in a 20 to 25 year and build 10 to 25 years. They typically live 10 to 25 years and build large domed stick nests. The magpie, they're like a penguin. Magpies and penguins. Oh, I know what video I have to make. The magpie and the penguin, they're both birds. So the penguin and the magpie have to be ancestors of each other. Crows are very intelligent birds. I love crows. I love crows with a passion. The more I've watched birds, it's like these animals are not dumb at all. They do things out of necessity, and they take the route of they're like water. They take the route of least resistance. You know, so humans are the same way, taking the route of least resistance. And so they just have to go someplace else. Why do magpies have a bad reputation? Magpies are very territorial and protective of their nests. During the nesting season, they will mob and attack humans, pets, and other birds near their nest. They will also bully other birds at the feeder. Oh my goodness. And so crows, the crows don't do that. I think the mockingbirds are the same way though. The little mockingbirds, they're territorial too. And you'll find the mockingbirds, they chase the crows. I've watched them do this and it's really funny. And sometimes they follow the crows around because the crow is larger. And so the crow will actually break things up. And then the smaller mockingbirds that follow the crow, they'll pick up food. So sometimes the birds work together and sometimes you'll see maybe just a small amount. They work in very small groups. So you'll have one crow and then you'll have 2 or 3 mockingbirds that are following the crow. And they do this for eating purposes, for hunting, and they'll let the crow hunt some larger things, and then the smaller birds will go in and clean up a little bit and get some of the leftovers. Yeah, ravens. Okay, so YouTube only allows you to make so many videos per day. Well, you can make more than 3, big homie. I found out yesterday I made 47 videos. I uploaded 47 videos yesterday, so 3 is you've been telling me I can only upload 3 and they stopped serving, and that's just not true. I counted and I uploaded 47 videos, plus I did 2 live streams. The live streams, I believe, are separate from the from my short uploads. So I did 47 videos yesterday. 47. That's a lot, actually. But no, actually it's not a lot. The thing I've always said is, it's like, well, why am I penalized for uploading short videos? Because the short videos, they don't amount to the long videos. So technically, if I'm limited to how many short videos I can upload, then that means that if I uploaded a bunch of 15-second, if I uploaded a bunch of 6-second to 3-minute short videos, that's a whole, and there's 47 videos. I may have done more than 47, I'm not sure. Then that means I've made less content uploading the shorts than by making a long video. So let's see what Big Homie says. A raven is like a crow too. Did you know you can train a crow to talk? I did not know you can train a crow to talk. Is that like the myna birds? There is a bird called the myna bird that it's smaller than a crow, but I knew you can train a myna bird to talk. I didn't know a crow would talk though. Crows are very, very smart though. They're very smart. I seen a documentary about crows and they can adapt. Yeah, they are very smart. I love crows. Um, I know people said they don't like them, but it's like they're like pigeons. My dad used to have pigeons, and I had so much fun when my dad had pigeons when we were kids. And they were homing pigeons, and sometimes he'd open the door. He'd open the door of the he had a what was it? He had a oh goodness, an outside metal shed. And he had a whole bunch of pigeons there, and they were homing pigeons. And I don't know why he had the pigeons, but he just wanted to raise pigeons. Oh, I wonder if he was trying to get birds to come into the area. That may have been what he was trying to do. So Big Homie says after 3 videos, they stopped sharing out your notifications to the subscribers, but you can do more than 3 videos. After 3 a day, I don't get your notification when you do more than that the same day. I have to go now. Okay, thanks. You. See you later. Let's look up one more about the myna birds. So we talked about the magpie and myna bird. Myna bird. So, oh, it's myna, myna bird. The common myna, Acrodotherus tristes, is an adaptable brown-bodied bird with a black head, yellow bill, and yellow eye patch, native to southern Asia. Highly invasive, they are intelligent, vocal, and aggressive. Living up to 12 years in the wild, they are omnivorous foragers, but rarely kept as pets due to their invasive nature and loud calls. I didn't realize myna birds were brown. Appearance: brown body, black hood, yellow bare skin patch right behind the eyes, yellow legs, bill, and white wing patches visible in flight. Behavior: highly intelligent, loud, social, and they often form communal roosts known to be aggressive towards other birds and people. Oh, that's like barn swallows. Barn swallows. Locomotion: they prefer to walk or strut on the ground rather than hop. Diet: omnivores. They eat insects, especially grasshoppers, fruits, seeds, discarded human waste, and sometimes small reptiles and eggs. So actually they would eat any type of waste probably. So there's birds that eat human waste. That sounds gross. So if there's birds that eat waste, it's like, well, I would think that, the waste Nazis of things would just kind of, you know what I'm just thinking out loud here. For sewage and city sewage, if birds eat waste, wouldn't you do maybe a mix of a sewage lagoon of something? Because you're not going to be able to prevent the birds from getting into the waste. So I know they put it in water. They have a sewage lagoon that's separate. They try to keep it separate from everything else, because I grew up across from a sewage lagoon. It was probably about a half a mile away from where I grew up. And I don't know how. All I know is that that's where they shipped the sewage to. That's where they pumped the sewage to. I don't ever remember any noises or anything related to that glug, 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 glug noise, related to some of the areas that have pumps and things, the larger city areas that have that glug, glug, glug noise. So when you get the glug, glug, glug noise, I found out that the glug, glug, glug noise is actually if you have sprinklers in your house too, because there was a point we stopped using the sprinklers that were installed in the house, and I thought that's so ridiculous. It's a pain in the neck, but then there gets to be a glug, glug, glug noise if you don't. So there's air that's getting inside of the water because of the sprinkler system. So I started turning the sprinkler system on, and then the glug, glug, glug noise stopped. So it had something to do with the sprinkler system that was coming out from the house. And so I think a sprinkler system is a waste, complete waste of something that is to be put in property. And that's what a lot of these HOA communities were doing, is putting in, when they're building the properties, they're putting in sprinkler systems. And it's like, well, in the cold climate places, you have to clear the whole water out, or they freeze. The pipes freeze in the winter time. So anyway, I said I was going to end my video, and I need to end it now.